I had to learn how to talk again when I was 19 after getting dentures. And after spending $5,000 to get teeth, I am still toothless. So my name is Natalie Lacasse. When I was 18, I just kind of like got my driver's license, freedom. It was my first big snowfall in our province. I wasn't familiar with like how to drive in the snow properly on the highway. We were all going super slow and I started to slide a bit. I didn't know what to do, so I decided to give it a bit of gas, which resulted in me doing like a full circle. I distinctly remember seeing the people behind me, like their faces, and then before I knew it, the front of my car was in like the bush and the back end of my car was facing like the highway, so I had to like back out. And when it happened, it went so fast and like the adrenaline was so high, I didn't feel like I hurt anything, and I was just more worried like, okay, I have to like get back on the highway. And then the next morning, I'd woken up, I could barely walk. Like my entire from like my waist down felt like it was shredded apart. I went to the ER and they told me I had a tear in my lumbar, like in my lower back muscle. So the ER doctor gave me 2 weeks worth of naproxen and told me it was a muscle relaxant. And so at the time I didn't really like think, oh, I should like Google like the effects that could happen with it. I just thought like, oh, this doctor's giving me something for pain, I'll take it as directed. And I started just take 2 orally a day for 2 weeks to help with the pain. And before that 2 weeks was even up, my gut and like stomach was killing. Like anything I was eating was absolutely on fire. And at the time, they prescribed me naproxen. They also prescribed me Dilaudid, which is like a morphine hybrid. And so I had gone back to the ER because I wasn't sure if it was like the naproxen or maybe the Dilaudid that's causing like these gut issues. And that's when I found out at the ER that the effects the naproxen has on the stomach lining, like you should be taking it with food, or if you have stomach issues already, like I've always had a sensitive tummy since a kid. It's a really harsh medication on the stomach. And so at that point, I stopped taking them, and he gave me just a medication for like anti-nausea, and I was still on the Dilaudid, like this morphine for pain. Within 2 weeks after that second initial visit, it went from like vomiting once or twice a week after meals to almost every day. I thought it was pretty normal to like brush your teeth right after you get sick. Like I hate the feeling of like vomiting and like that feeling on your teeth. So because I was vomiting at work and in my car, like I would like get sick and cough like as I'm driving. It was disgusting. I was buying like travel size toothbrushes and toothpaste to keep like brushing my teeth as soon as I'd get sick, not knowing like I'm brushing the stomach acid into my teeth and like rotting my teeth basically. I went back to the ER and that's when I found out I had peptic stomach ulcers, which also runs in my family. So unfortunately, going forward now, I can't take like heavy medication, but from that time on, I was on 18 medications. It was a variation, 9 in the morning, 9 at night. Some were like to soothe my stomach and heal the lining, and others were just vitamins to help digestion. As soon as like my stomach started to get better and I stopped vomiting and work was going good and stable again, I noticed my teeth were going like transparent. I wasn't having any dental pain. And that was like the first sign I noticed like something was going on, because like in photos, if sun was on my face, like it was going right through my teeth. And I was like, that's weird. But like doctors, I wasn't having any dental pains. Or like, I'm not going to the dentist. I have no pain. I'm brushing my teeth twice a day, flossing. Like I have no reason to go. I think it was end of March the following year, early April, I went to take a sip out of my coffee mug and I like went too fast and I bumped my mug into my lip and it cracked out my front tooth so fast. Like it took nothing to break my front tooth, and it didn't necessarily hurt, which is why I was like, that's something weird is going on. Like it was like terrifying, but also like I was like in disbelief. I'm like, shouldn't I be like screaming right now? And so I had gone to the dentist in my city. I didn't have like a regular dentist at this point because I was moving cities. My family had just moved across the country. I had just moved. So I just went to like this random dentist, and he basically told me like what the effects of vomiting did to my teeth. Like I had no enamel left. Like still my lower teeth are completely like eroded and decayed and broken. And the option to save my teeth, like filling root canals, the likelihood of their lasting were pretty low. And so he did give me the option, like, hey, we can try and save like all of your teeth, but like they likely aren't gonna last. You're gonna have to keep repaying it. Or we could just pull it and you could start getting dentures. And that's when I started the whole denture process. So it was like within like almost less than a year, a little over a year from getting sick to like needing a denture. I thought I would maybe sound different. I didn't think I'd have difficulty speaking. I didn't think I'd have to like relearn how to eat. I'll never forget, like I left the denturist's office and I went to like talk to my mom on the phone, and I couldn't, like this tooth would not stay in. It was like falling, and that's when I realized like this isn't going to be as easy as I thought it was going to be. The first week, I really didn't know like what I was doing. It was a lot of crying, a lot of like hurting, because too, when you're learning how to talk again and eat again, you're hurting yourself a lot because your denture is falling and it's cutting into like recently like cut open gums. And my issue was I like my jaw is really forward, and when I was a kid, especially like my tongue would try and stick out when I would talk, causing like a little bit of a lisp. So with a denture, when I was doing that, I was spitting on my teeth. My teeth were falling out because my tongue kept hitting them. And I'm like, this can't be like a normal thing. And so through watching speech impediment videos, that's when I started to like get the hang of like the way I'm moving my tongue. The tongue is the issue here, not so much the teeth. I realized there's a lot of words I would say for the first time like at work and realized I'd have an issue with that word. And it would obviously be embarrassing having my teeth move around or fall out while I'm trying to talk to like a customer or something. And so I started to, if I wasn't reading like a book or like not even a book, I would just read like anything I was seeing out loud. Like in the kitchen, I would just read boxes out loud and try and hear the way I would say things, and just any words. Like I would watch YouTube videos and like try and talk with them to see if like I'm sounding right. Once I got the hang of it, it was easy. Like I almost forgot I had the denture in. The full quote for like my full, what they're calling it, a full mouth rehabilitate between my teeth and my jaw. On top of, not on top of what I've already spent, but the quote for everything is $16,500. And that is if everything goes right. So the $16,500 is assuming my jaw isn't going to get like mangled in this process. They don't know what's going to happen to my jaw because like the lower teeth, they're in like your ball, like they're in your jawbone, and they're the hardest one to remove. It's a lot of money, and especially now, like I went from working in a really large sports arena, like I went from running around this huge arena every day and like heels and like whatnot to barely being able to stand up in the shower for a full duration. Like, how am I gonna make enough money to even cover this? I know right now, even if I had that money, I couldn't get teeth at this very second anyway. So I'm really trying to not like think too much of like the cost to come. I never realized like how much dentures will change your face, whether it's one tooth or all of your teeth. Like on a denture, it's going to look different. And when I realized that, I was like, oh my god, I don't recognize like who this person is. Yeah, it really like destroyed me. And like the first year, I swear I cried every day. The one thing I can really say is be as kind to yourself as you would like an old lady at the supermarket, let's say. Like it's so easy for us to be so mean to ourselves and so harsh on ourselves, and that will mentally like deteriorate us. And if we're going through anything that's hard, like we wouldn't talk to a stranger going through something hard in a mean way or being like, why aren't you healing faster? Why is this happening to you? We wouldn't say that to someone losing their teeth that we love or care about. And so we shouldn't be saying that to ourselves. And I think being patient too is key. Like, don't rush anything, just go slow. And that internal dialogue with ourselves is huge. Like, the more you say, I look awful, this isn't like even close to my real teeth, the more you're going to believe in that and hone in on that. And yeah, I feel like that first year, it's a huge learning process. It's probably one of the hardest years I ever went through, even with all my surgeries. But once you kind of start getting that grounding again of who you are without like your real teeth, it does get so much easier. But like having that support circle and being kind and patient is so huge.